I never imagined my own daughter-in-law would hit me so hard that my ears would ring for hours, and I definitely never imagined she would do it right in front of the courthouse, where strangers stood frozen, staring at us as if we were some kind of spectacle. But that's exactly what happened. One moment I was trying to catch my balance, and the next thing I heard was her voice, sharp, hateful, dripping with venom, as she screamed, "Filthy old woman!" Her words felt like knives, slicing deeper than the slap itself. And as I looked around, desperate for someone to step in, my eyes finally found my son. My only child, my pride, my entire life, standing there doing absolutely nothing. He didn't help me. He didn't defend me. He didn't even flinch. He just looked away like I was a stranger. And that's the part I still can't get over. Tell me, if your own child stood there watching their spouse humiliate you like that, would you still forgive them? Or would you do what I ended up doing later? Because I swear in that moment, a part of me snapped. But to understand how things got this bad, I need to start from the beginning, long before the courthouse, long before my daughter-in-law's slap, and long before my son forgot who the hell raised him. My name doesn't matter much, not anymore. What matters is the story, how everything spiraled, how everything fell apart piece by piece without me realizing how deep the rot had gone. I'm 62, a widow for 7 years now, and until recently, I believed I had lived a decent, honorable life. My husband, God rest him, used to say that family is like a house. If one pillar cracks, the whole thing shakes. Back then, I didn't understand what he truly meant. I thought he was talking about loyalty, about sticking together in hard times. But now I know he meant something much darker, that sometimes the crack comes from the inside, from someone you trusted so much that you never even thought to keep your guard up. When my husband died, my son Farhan was all I had left. He was 30 at the time, ambitious, hardworking, and respectful. People used to compliment me, saying I'd raised a good man. I would smile proudly, thinking I had done something right. I used to pack his lunches even after he started working, and he used to kiss my forehead every morning before leaving for his job. He promised me he'd always take care of me. "Ami, you'll never be alone," he would say. "Whatever I earn, it's yours first." But somehow, somewhere, those promises turned into obligations, and those obligations turned into irritation. It all started a year after he got married. Her name is Anaya. Beautiful, confident, modern, outspoken, the kind of girl who always has something to say and doesn't care who she hurts in the process. When Farhan brought her home the first time, she smiled sweetly, complimented my cooking, and called me Ami G. Like she meant it. I was fooled immediately. I thought, oh, what a blessing. My son found someone who loves him, but blessings can rot too, and hers came with teeth. In the beginning, everything was fine. They lived with me in our 3-bedroom house, the house my husband had worked his whole life to buy. The house that held every memory of my marriage, every corner filled with echoes of laughter, arguments, celebrations, and grief. I let them have the master bedroom and moved myself into the smaller room. It didn't bother me. What's a little discomfort when it's for your child's happiness? But slowly, little things started changing. At first, Anaya started complaining about how I cooked. Too oily, too salty, too traditional, she'd say. Then she started rearranging things around the house, removing the curtains my husband loved, replacing the cushions I'd stitched myself, and tossing away dishes I'd kept for decades because they didn't match her aesthetic. She would insult my age, joke about my outdated habits, and sometimes roll her eyes so dramatically that I felt like an uninvited guest in my own home. I told myself it was normal. New bride, new personality. I kept quiet. Then came the money problems. Farhan had a good job and I had a steady pension. I had never asked my son for money after my husband died. I paid my own bills, bought my own groceries, and even contributed to house expenses because I didn't want to burden them. But one day, Farhan gently asked if I could hand over my pension each month, just for a while, so they could save up for a car. I agreed. Why wouldn't I? It was for their future. I didn't need much. My life was simple. But after a while, just for a while, turned into every month, and suddenly, I felt guilty spending even a little on myself. Because Anaya would make sarcastic comments like, "Oh, so you bought this? Must be nice to have spare money." Still, I stayed silent. But then everything escalated when my health started to fail. I have arthritis. Some days I can barely walk down the stairs, and the winter is especially brutal. One evening, while trying to get my laundry from the backyard, I slipped and fell on the wet tiles. My knee twisted, and I cried out in pain. I lay there for 10 minutes. Not because no one heard me, but because they decided not to come. Farhan and Anaya were upstairs in their room. I could hear the TV, the sound of laughter, the volume increasing as if they were deliberately drowning me out. Eventually, it was the neighbor's son who helped me get up and brought me inside. When Farhan finally came downstairs, he didn't even ask, "Are you okay?" Instead, he sighed and said, "Why didn't you call out properly? You know we can't hear you from upstairs." Anaya chimed in with her fake concern. "You should really be more careful. At your age, falling can be dangerous." Her tone wasn't concern. It was irritation disguised as advice. The crack in the house grew wider. One night, I overheard their conversation. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I had simply gone to the kitchen to get water. But their voices were loud. "She's so slow," Anaya complained. "And she's always in the way. I can't live like this forever. She's my mother," Farhan replied weakly. "Then get her a nursing home or something. Why does she need to live here? She has nothing left anyway. The house is in your name now, so why are you still acting like she owns it?" I froze. The house was in his name. When did that happen? The next day, I confronted Farhan and he confessed. "Imi, you remember when Abu passed away? You signed some documents, it was for legal processing." I did sign papers, but I didn't know I was signing away the house. My husband had trusted our son enough to put his name on some documents, and I blindly followed because I trusted him too. That single signature changed everything. The house wasn't mine anymore. From that day onwards, Anaya's behavior became shamelessly cruel. She didn't try to hide her contempt. She would yell at me for using the living room, accuse me of making the house smell like old people, and one day when I accidentally broke a glass bowl, she muttered, "What a useless burden." A burden. After everything I had done. After raising Farhan alone after his father's cancer. After selling my jewelry to pay for his college. After sacrificing everything so he would have a future. A burden. But the final blow came the day I learned they wanted to sell the house. My home. My husband's memory. The place where my child took his first steps. They were planning to move to a new apartment that Anaya's friend had recommended, and I, apparently, was going to be moved to a senior facility. That's when I realized they didn't see me as family anymore. I had become baggage. I decided I needed help, so I reached out to my late husband's brother, a lawyer. I told him everything. He was furious. Furious at Farhan, furious at Anaya, and furious at me for not speaking up earlier. He dug into the paperwork and discovered something shocking: the transfer of the house was not legally valid because I had signed it under emotional distress and without full disclosure. He filed a case to reclaim ownership of the house and secure my rights. When Farhan received the legal notice, he exploded. "Why did you do this, Ami? Why are you ruining our lives?" "Our lives," I repeated. "What about mine? What about the life I built here? What about everything I sacrificed for you?" He didn't care. Anaya stood behind him smirking, fueling his anger. The next few weeks were a blur of arguments, silent dinners, and closed doors. Farhan stopped talking to me altogether. Anaya mocked me every chance she got. They said I was ungrateful, manipulative, dramatic. They said I wanted to break their home. They said I enjoyed being a victim. But I knew the truth. I wasn't fighting for revenge. I was fighting for survival. The court date was set. I dreaded going, not because of the legal battle, but because I knew my dignity would be torn apart. I was 62, tired and heartbroken. But I still went, dressed in the simple shower kameez my husband always liked, clutching my dupatta like a lifeline. That morning, as I stepped out of the rickshaw near the courthouse, I saw them, Farhan and Anaya, standing near the entrance. They didn't even acknowledge me. They whispered to each other, probably rehearsing lies. When I approached them, hoping maybe, just maybe, they would soften, Anaya glared at me with hatred. "Why are you even here?" she hissed. "One day you'll regret making us your enemies." I tried to keep calm. "I don't want enemies. I only want my home back." She suddenly shoved me, hard. I stumbled, my balance faltering. Before I could steady myself, her hand swung across my face. The slap echoed so loud that the people nearby turned their heads instantly. "You filthy old woman!" she screamed. "You think you can ruin our life and walk away?" My ears rang. The world blurred. And when I finally managed to focus, I saw Farhan standing motionless. No guilt, no shock, not even anger at his wife, just emptiness. And that's when something inside me shattered forever. A mother can forgive anything, but not this. Not the humiliation, not the abandonment, not the betrayal. So that's how I ended up there, trembling outside the courthouse, fighting back tears, wondering what sin I had committed to deserve this from the very child I raised with every ounce of love in my heart. And before I tell you what happened next, Before I tell you how the court case unfolded, how the truth came out, and what I ended up doing, I want you to pause for a moment and really think. If you were standing where I stood, with your own child watching someone assault you and doing nothing, what would you do? Would you fight back like I did? Or would you walk away and let them destroy everything you built? Tell me honestly. Because the choices I made next changed everything, and once I crossed that line, there was no going back. When Anaya's slap echoed through the air outside that courthouse, something inside me withered and something else was born. Something hard, cold, and determined. As she stood there fuming, dusting her hand like she had touched something filthy, I felt my cheek burning, but the real pain was deeper, like someone had twisted a blade inside my chest, and my son, my Farhan, just stared, his eyes flat, lifeless, almost annoyed that this entire scene was happening in public. That moment wasn't just humiliation. It was the official end of whatever remained between me and the boy I once thought would lay down his life for me. But that slap didn't just sting, it awakened something furious in me. I wasn't going to break. I wasn't going to walk away. I wasn't going to let them sell my home and throw me away like I was worthless. I was going to fight even if it cost me everything, and little did I know that fight would expose secrets so dark, so twisted, that even I struggled to believe my own child was involved. After the slap, people came rushing toward us. Some gasped, some whispered, and a few even muttered things like, "Shameful," and "What kind of woman hits an elderly lady?" But Anaya didn't care. She kept shouting, pointing at me as if I were the villain in this story. "She's manipulating everyone," she screeched. "She's doing black magic on us! She wants to destroy our marriage!" People stared at her like she was insane. I stood frozen, my hand pressed against my burning cheek, and every fiber of my being wanted to shout back, to defend myself, to tell the world what she had done. But before I could speak, my brother-in-law, the lawyer handling my case, hurried forward. "Enough!" he thundered. "If you touch her again, I'll have you arrested right here." Anaya's face twisted, but she stepped back, hiding behind Farhan like a coward. And as they walked past me, pushing through the crowd, Farhan whispered sharply, "Stop playing victim, Ami. This drama won't save you drama." That's what he called this. My pain, my tears, my humiliation. Drama. We entered the courtroom, and while the hearing was only preliminary, the tension was thick enough to suffocate. The judge was an older man with silver-framed glasses and a stern expression that made everyone sit a little straighter. He listened to both sides, scanning documents carefully. My brother-in-law presented evidence that the transfer of property had been executed without proper disclosure, that I had not understood the implications, and that pressure had been applied during a period of emotional distress. Farhan's lawyer argued back, insisting everything had been voluntary, that I was mentally unstable, and that the house belonged to him now, mentally unstable. They said that about me. My own son allowed someone to claim I wasn't in my senses. If only they knew. My sense was the only thing keeping me from breaking. As the arguments went back and forth, I watched Farhan's face. He didn't look at me once. Not even accidentally. His head remained tilted upward, jaw clenched, expression cold. The boy who once held my hand to cross the road now acted like sharing the same oxygen with me was a burden. The judge didn't make a decision that day. He set another date and instructed both parties to gather additional documents. When the hearing ended, I felt exhausted. My knees hurt, my head throbbed, and I desperately wanted to go home. But as soon as I stepped out of the courthouse, I realized home was no longer safe. Farhan and Anaya were waiting near the exit. When Anaya saw me, she smirked like a predator spotting its prey. "You're going to lose," she whispered as she walked past me. "We'll make sure of it." Farhan didn't say a word, but his silence hurt more than anything she could have said. That evening, I returned to the house quietly. I avoided the living room, avoided their room, avoided everything that reminded me of my downfall. I stayed in my small bedroom at the back of the house, staring at the walls, feeling like they were closing in on me. I knew staying under the same roof as them was dangerous now, but I had nowhere else to go, not yet. Then came the night everything changed. It was past midnight when I woke up to the sound of muffled arguing. At first, I thought it was a dream. But when I heard footsteps, whispers, and the scrape of furniture being moved, I became alert. I quietly stepped out of my room and walked toward the hallway. That's when I heard them, Farhan and Anaya, whispering heatedly. "If she's gone, everything will be ours," Anaya hissed. "The judge will rule in our favor. The house, the money, everything." Farhan's voice was low, shaky. "I can't do that. She's my mother." "Then act like it and get rid of her," she snapped. She's ruining our life!" My heart stopped. Get rid of me. What did she mean? Send me away? Push me into a nursing home? Or something worse? My hands trembled as I tried to steady myself. I stepped back too quickly and accidentally knocked over a small vase on the hallway table. The sound shattered the silence. They froze. I froze. And then suddenly I heard their footsteps rushing toward me. I panicked and hurried back to my room, closing the door quietly and pretending to sleep. A few minutes later, I heard a soft knock. "Ami," Farhan's voice. Calm, too calm. "Are you awake?" I didn't respond. He waited. Then the knob turned gently. Locked, he knocked again, a little harder. Amy opened the door. I stayed silent. Eventually they went away. But from that moment on, I slept with my back pressed against the door, a chair wedged beneath the handle, and my phone clutched in my hand. I knew I couldn't live like this. I needed help. The next morning, I packed a small bag and went straight to my brother-in-law's house. When he opened the door and saw the fear on my face, he pulled me inside immediately. I told him everything. The midnight whispers, Anaya's threats, Farhan's silence, everything. He rubbed his forehead, exasperated. "This is worse than I thought," he muttered. "They're unhinged. You can't go back there." He insisted I stay with him until the case was resolved. His wife welcomed me warmly, treating me like family. I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief that I wasn't alone. Heartbreak that the people I needed protection from were the same people I brought into this world. The next few days were filled with preparation. My brother-in-law gathered evidence. Bank statements showing how they took my pension. CCTV footage from the neighbor's house, capturing one of Anaya's shouting episodes. Voice recordings of them speaking cruelly when they thought I wasn't listening. Every piece of proof painted a clearer picture of the truth I had lived for years. Then came the day of the second court hearing. This time, I entered the courtroom not as a scared mother, but as a woman fighting for her life. Farhan and Anaya were already seated. Farhan looked tired, pale, agitated. Anaya, on the other hand, looked confident, almost smug, like she believed victory was inevitable. The judge entered, and the hearing began. My brother-in-law presented the new evidence. The judge listened carefully, eyebrows raising at certain points. When the audio recordings played, the courtroom fell silent. Anaya's harsh words echoed through the speakers like poison. When the neighbor's footage was shown, capturing her screaming at me at the gate, the judge's face tightened. Their lawyer panicked, scrambling to counter. "This is out of context? Enough?" The judge cut him off. I can hear the context clearly. For the first time, Anaya looked nervous. Her confidence cracked, and when the judge turned to Farhan and said, "This is how you treat your mother," I watched my son's face fall apart. His eyes dropped to the floor. His hands trembled. He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. The judge postponed his decision again, saying he needed time to review everything. But everyone in that room could feel the shift. The tide was turning. Outside the courtroom, Farhan approached me for the first time in weeks. "Ami," he whispered. My heart ached at the sound of it. I didn't know it would get this far. I didn't know she. I held up my hand. "Don't," I said quietly. "Please don't say anything." He swallowed hard, tears forming. "I never wanted to hurt you." My voice trembled. "But you did. And not just once. Not just twice. Every day with your silence." Before he could respond, Anaya stormed over, yanking his arm. "We're leaving." She glared at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, but it was. She just didn't know it yet. Over the next week, things escalated. Anaya began threatening me over text messages, vile, abusive messages. But she wasn't as smart as she thought. My brother-in-law collected every message, every call, every threat. Then came the final court date. I remember every second of it. The courtroom was packed. The judge looked stern, serious. Farhan and Anaya sat together, but he looked miserable while she looked furious, her eyes darting around the room. When the judge began speaking, my heart pounded in my chest. After reviewing all evidence, he said, "It is clear that the property transfer was executed under emotional manipulation and without proper consent. Therefore, the court nullifies the transfer and restores full ownership to the plaintiff." My breath caught. I covered my mouth, tears instantly filling my eyes. But the judge wasn't done. In addition, the court acknowledges the pattern of mental harassment and attempted coercion toward the plaintiff. Protective measures will be issued accordingly. Gasps filled the courtroom. Anaya shot up from her seat. "What? This is ridiculous! She's lying!" Sit down," the judge snapped. She froze. Farhan looked broken, completely shattered. He buried his face in his hands. When the hearing ended, I felt light, not happy, not relieved, Just light, like the weight crushing my chest had loosened. As I stepped outside the courtroom, Farhan approached me again. He looked smaller, weaker, almost like the little boy I once held in my arms. "Amy, please don't leave me," he whispered. His voice cracked. Tears fell down his cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." For a moment, I wanted to hold him, comfort him, tell him everything would be okay. But then the memory hit me. His silence as Anaya slapped me. His silence as she mocked me. His silence as she planned to throw me out. Silence is a choice, and he chose her, every time. "I forgave you every day of my life," I whispered. "But I can't forget." Anaya rushed forward to pull him away, shouting curses at me, but I didn't even look at her. I turned and walked away, each step carrying years of pain, betrayal, and disappointment out of my body. When I finally reached the exit, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. But the aftermath wasn't easy. Not at all. A month after the court ruling, Farhan showed up at my door alone. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair uncombed, his face gaunt. "She left me," he said softly. "She blamed me for losing the case. She took all her things and moved back to her parents' place." I nodded, holding the door partially open. "I see." He looked up at me, eyes red, voice trembling. "Can I come inside?" I hesitated, he noticed. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he whispered. "I know I failed you. But I'm alone now. I have nothing left." I looked into his eyes I had loved since he was born. Eyes that once sparkled with innocence but now carried guilt, regret, and loss. And I said something I never imagined saying to my own child. "You're my son," I whispered. "You always will be. But you need to rebuild your life. And I need to rebuild mine." He cried silently. I cried silently. Two broken hearts separated not by anger anymore, but by the consequences of his choices. I didn't shut the door on him. But I didn't fully open it either. I left it halfway, symbolic of the distance he created and would now have to mend slowly, patiently, genuinely. From that day forward, he visited me every week. Slowly, painfully, he began repairing what he destroyed. As for Anaya, she tried calling him several times later, begging to reconcile when she learned he wasn't getting anything from the house. But by then, even Farhan saw the truth. He blocked her. She eventually married someone else within a year. Life settled again, but I was different. Stronger, wiser, more protective of my heart. And now, as I look back at the entire journey, from the slap outside the courthouse to the truth unraveling to the slow rebuilding of my relationship with my son, I can only say one thing: betrayal doesn't destroy a person. Silence does, indifference does. A child turning away from a mother who raised him does. If you took this journey with me, tell me, was I wrong to fight back? Was I wrong to reclaim what was mine? Was I wrong to protect myself when my own child wouldn't? If you stood by my side through this story, then like this video if you believe I deserve justice, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you truly think about everything that happened. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.